I often get feedback that our house is gray and boring, and I'm pretty sure there's scientific evidence that bright colors like reds and yellows make a person happier in their home, but I'm going dark gray with this room anyways because grays and greens and blues I feel are calming, and as much as I love red in other people's homes and spaces, in my own home it makes me feel almost a little stressed. I don't know why. I chose a less ornate trim for the picture molding in here. You know me, always trying to add a modern spin on things, and I brought the boxes from the baseboard to the crown to make the room feel taller. I did mess up a few cuts, but fortunately I was able to salvage those pieces since adding that second box increased the expense, but in my opinion, I think it was totally worth it, even though it made the finishing work more annoying. Disclaimer, using a wet wipe to sand off the wood filler may make it less messy, but I don't recommend because you usually end up wiping off too much. The second modern element to this room is the paint color. I went with the color Prairie Smoke from the Magnolia paint collection. And yes, that is me using a mixing bowl as my paint bucket. It worked very well. Quick tip, wearing your clothes inside out while painting can help hide any mistakes that happen. I used a matte finish on the entire room, which actually looks very cool, but typically I do a satin finish on the trim, eggshell on the walls, and even with priming, I always use at least 2 coats for good coverage. Third modern element, I used pull wrap to add a little dimension to the walls, give the fluted look. I mocked up a few different options to give me a visual, and while I was trying to decide where I wanted to put it, I took a quick break for a progress photo. I found the coolest mercury glass pendant light. It was very heavy and hard to install, but once it was up, I was obsessed. Thankfully, I do not use glue when installing trim on walls because I ended up changing my mind, as I often do. I went a little more asymmetrical with the placement and it was an easy fix. I just had to fill a bunch of nail holes and repaint those specific sections. Since the outlets were white, they stood out pretty badly. I decided to learn how to swap out the outlets. I put black ones in where the white ones were. It was not as bad as I thought it would be. It was still a little scary. I don't want to do it all the time, but at least I know I can. The other big piece to this office is the sit-stand desk, which I have a whole other video on if you need more information on it and a blog post, but this is the gist. For finishing touches, I hung up some artwork and then I DIY'd a wrapped pin board, which just adds a little something extra. If you don't include the cost of the desks, this is a pretty cost-effective makeover. And despite what a lot of people say, it does not depress me at all. I love the dark, bold color. Honestly, I sometimes wish I had painted the ceiling, but I wanted to live with it for a little while before making that decision. The office was one of the first updates I did because in my mind, I thought that that would help us organize our lives, but that is not the case.